the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen, and that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful, they were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists, they were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol, they obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're gonna make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jake Angeli-Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q-schamanen.
Jake Angeli-Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jake Angeli-Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jake Angeli-Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jake Angeli-Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jake Angeli-Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jake Angeli-Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him. Shoot him. It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jake Angeli-Chansley, and the video proves that. but you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened, but it did.
Hi there. Warm welcome, Jake Angeli-Chansley. How are you? Can you hear me? Hi. Can you hear? Ah. No.
Okay, 1 second here. Let me see. My mic's not muted.
No.
No. Let me try another pair of headphones.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
We asked the audience. Okay. They can both hear us. I'm so happy to have you here. I have a surround. When I talk, I hear myself twice. How are you, Jack?
It's Jake, J-A-K-E.
Jake.
And I'm doing well. Glad to be out of prison, to say the least.
Mm. And they call you the Q-schamanen.
That's what the media calls me. That's not what I call myself.
No.
No.
So it's really annoying. I can hear myself. But in Sweden, they call me Miss White Hat. And that's, of course, the trolls and haters. So, yeah, I'm so honored to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
See if I can do something about my...
Oh, about the feedback?
Okay. Is it better now?
I can still hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just significantly quieter.
Yeah. I had the wrong mic. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. And now I can't hear myself twice. Yeah, I did an interview also with Michael Ray Corey and Jake. And I overheard you in that interview with Michael Knowley to talk about the Ericsson report. Please let us know what you have found when you have digged into that.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I haven't dug into it anywhere near as much as Michael Corey did. No. From what I understand, Ericsson is a communications corporation that has contracts with pretty much every major communications corporation that's out there already. And they, through these contracts, in one way or another, control the communication systems for the entire world. So all of our communications, all of our telecommunications, all internet, phone calls, you name it, it's all being funneled to and through the Ericsson Corporation. Now, that information can be very, very valuable for a number of reasons. In warfare, one of the first things that you want to do is compromise the enemy's communication lines. because once you understand what the enemy's doing, why they're doing it, where they're doing it, how they're doing it, how many troops are going to be there, the movement of goods, the movement of resources, artillery, all that stuff, then you have the enemy by the balls. So Ericsson having all of the information, the most crucial infrastructural and tactical information of the United States government, of the United States military, is a problem, especially when they do things like, say, like what they did where they gave ISIS a bunch of locations for military members, United States military members, which resulted in their deaths. There's a lawsuit right now where Ericsson is being sued over that.
Yeah. Yeah, great to hear you talk about that, because we come from Sweden. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's better, right? So I
Yeah.
invited myself as a guest. Yeah. So I hope my sound is better now. And yeah, so we have been, living with this family, this oligarch family, our whole lives. I
The
mean,
Wallenbergs?
everybody, yeah, the Wallenbergs. Everybody knows them. Everybody admires them. And I've been into finance and work with the stock market. And then, of course, you know them because they own Nasdaq, right? So, and Nasdaq is actually is also the platform for 150 stock exchanges worldwide. So every stock market is controlled by them. So not only the telecom infrastructure in 184 countries, then you have Nasdaq, and then you have BIS, Bank of International Settlements. So they have the whole ecosystem for all transaction globally.
Yeah,
And
and
also,
the thing is, and I'm sure that they watch your show. So, because they have to, they want to know what the people know.
yeah.
They could, if they wanted to, free humanity with their wealth. They could stop war. They could create, abundance, create flourishing economies. But it seems, and maybe I'm, a little biased here, but it seems to me that they don't have any interest in doing that whatsoever. They have interest more so in control, in creating profit through war, in creating control through monopolizing resources, in creating control through monopolizing monetary systems. So it's like, look, dude, you can choose to exercise your free will however you want, but I'm just telling you that, and I'm not talking to you, dear, I'm talking to them. I'm telling them, I'm speaking directly to them when I say I'm telling you that you're going down a very slippery slope, and it won't end well for you spiritually. It will not end well for you karmically. And you can continue to do this, but you will have hell to pay. And you can always cross the sea of your transgressions and not do it anymore and use your wealth, your abundance, and your influence to free humanity. But if you continue to use it to enslave humanity, I promise you, one day the roles will reverse and you will be the slave and the people will be the master.
Yeah, we have so much to cover today, and we will actually cover your favorite topics. We will talk about what you said in the end of that interview with Michael Knowles, and you said that nobody wants to talk about the problem or the solution, how we see the future. So we will cover that as well. But I will also say that, in November 2019, the Justice Department, the DOJ, took control over Ericsson. And when they took control over Ericsson for 3 years, and then they prolonged it to mid 2024. And what happened then was that, they have all these subsidiaries. They have like Red Bee Media. They have 500 TV stations. So what they have now is they don't even control their own companies. So when they talk to their shareholders, they say that they are not even allowed to respond to the press. So I think this is, kind of the tour that Donald Trump did in 2017. They knew they had to take this entity down. And also there is a Q post about that. And I can show it here. So, and this is post 4024. And it says, sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. A deeply entrenched enemy who controls vast majority of all communications is only defeated by game theory. So after that, they took control. So now actually it's Space Force that controls Ericsson, and that is great.
Yeah, well, if all that's true, then rah, I'm all for it. But at the same time, I don't want to replace one master for another. I mean, obviously, no one is the master of my soul or my ship, but what I mean is as a public. So
Yeah.
I don't like centralization of control, whether it's Ericsson or the DOJ.
Yeah.
I think that decentralization is essential for prosperity, for independence, for freedom.
Yeah, but actually, I think that what they are doing is decentralizing everything. So but they had to use the infrastructure, because everything, all transaction globally, that was, I think I've heard a figure that 90% of all global trade was done in dollar, not only the petrodollar and the narco dollar, the whole trade, 90%. And that is within this infrastructure. So they had to use that in order to, I think what they will do is they will divide Ericsson into 184 pieces. You can't have a private entity that control everything, all the communications in 184 countries. That's impossible. So I think that, I think it's under control. I think the White Hats has control over this, and they knew this. So I think they will give it back to all the countries and make them truly sovereign. And we will have, sovereign
Well, that would
nations.
be nice. That would be nice.
Yeah, but how was jail?
Terrible.
I heard you were in solid confinement for what, about 10 months or
10 and
that's
a half.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. How do you cope? I mean,
meditation, prayer, exercise, maybe getting on the phone when I'm out of my cell to talk to family. Maybe watch a little bit of TV. But the thing is that when you're stuck in solitary and you got a bunch of time hanging over your head, there's not really much you can do to cope.
No.
It's like you can try, and you can't really get out of your head.
No.
Yeah, you're stuck with your thoughts. And even if you manage to get out of your head for a short time, you got to come back to, guess what? Guess where you are? Guess what is going on?
Yeah. Well, I don't envy you, but did you went to meet Justin Austin Steinbart when he was released?
No.
Is he no, you didn't. Okay, I thought that you went to see him.
No.
Do you know him? No.
Well, I mean, I met him once when he was outside of the courthouse, and that was because I was going to protest the COVID lockdowns and you know, the mask mandates and stuff like that here in Phoenix. And I was walking in my regalia in front of the courthouse. I didn't even know that thing was a courthouse and till later. But then he came out and he was like talking with me. And then his crew came out of the car and they had cameras and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is kind of crazy. And then if you watch the video, you'll see I asked the guy standing next to me, I say, who is this guy? Because I didn't even know who it was. And he's like, dude, that's Austin Steinbart. I was like, oh, shit. Hey, you're Austin Steinbart. What's up, dude? You know, and I came up and I shook his hand. I've only interacted with Austin. Probably I could count it on my hand. You know, like I think that one time and then like 2 other times since I got out. And that was because he went down to the podcast I was doing in downtown Phoenix at the Capitol. And then shortly thereafter, he went to the speech that I gave for my homecoming speech when I got out of prison.
Yeah.
And then after that, shortly thereafter, he left out of state. He's gone. I don't know. I haven't really heard from him since. I didn't really communicate with him very much to begin with. It was a happenstance meeting outside the courthouse.
Well, I think he has done great videos to explain everything. I found him really early, and to me, that a lot of that made a lot of sense about the British, everything about the Queen and the 1871.
The
He
corporation,
covered all that.
maritime law. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and we have been following this really careful from Sweden, and we have the same trolls and haters that you have. So we kind of have that in common. But when did you find Q? And you have been following that movement and the Q posts. Tell us.
Well, in all honesty, I learned about Q when Q first started dropping, but I never really followed the posts the way that other people did. I kind of just sat back and watched the whole thing. I learned that there was, in fact, some form of like a numerical code. A little later on, kind of put things together a little bit. I never really followed anybody that followed Q the way that I did, which is kind of like from a distance and like watching and observing, like, oh, interesting. And then for me, I put it all together much later on. I was never like, hanging on the Q's every post like some people. It's just not how I operate. It's not how I'm built. So with that being said, what's that?
Yeah, you feel in more the movement. I mean, you see it from
from like an objective perspective. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I try to see what's going on, what it's doing, where it's going.
Yeah.
I'm trying to identify who might be behind it. And when I came to the conclusion that it was military, or at least military intelligence and good people within the the intelligence community, what some people call white hats, then I was like, okay, well, I can get behind this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I found it, and in what I did? I followed that, and of course I followed Trump because I wanted to see for how long, because the US dictates, I mean, the mandates all over the world, right? So I was kind of following Trump to see, where everything was going, for how long this will last, and the lockdowns and so on. And then I found Q, and then I thought maybe I should just look into Sweden and see if we have we are really the core of the deep state. So, and when you find Wallenberg, and you find this octopus, they have their fingers in everything, everywhere, and have had that for about 200 years. So ever since invented the phone, then the game was over. Then it was the Ericsson, and
Okay, just to let you know, you're breaking up a little bit.
I know I had a phone call. I'm really
Oh, it's
sorry.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. So yeah, ever since the phone was invented and people, the more connected we got,
Then the more
the more
infiltrated.
leverage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the more leverage they had, and they have like 100 years plan. They have been. About New Sweden, right? In the US, the Swedish colony, even before, no, okay, so Pennsylvania and New Sweden, that was a Swedish colony before the US was even a country. So we have been there
Oh no,
for a
yeah, I know
long,
what you're
long,
talking about. Yeah. I know
yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
And also, the Bidens, they have on the Swedish embassy, they had office in Washington, House of Sweden, but that's sold now. So that house is sold, but the Bidens had the office there, and that's Swedish jurisdiction. The FRA law and everything. So actually, they were operating in House of Sweden that have Swedish jurisdiction. So that's perfect.
Well, the idea that there's people like Bill Gates or China buying up farmland, or like that Disneyland is like on land that's owned by the British, or that Sweden has any sort of jurisdiction within the United States is absolutely ludicrous. I'm of the belief that we should be cutting ties with all of these institutions, with all of these people, and just saying, it's our land. You can jump up a goat's ass. You're not gonna, and that goes for people like the McDonald's Corporation as well. They're like one of the largest landowners in the world. It's like, look, all of this land is sovereign. And I don't care if you got some contract with some corporation or whatever. Guess what? That you do not belong to the land. The land does not belong to you. You belong to the land. Because guess what? When you pass, the land is still going to be here. We do not inherit the land from our ancestors. We are borrowing the land from our children.
Exactly.
And we're just totally trashing it, all for profit.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at Agenda 21, I think it was 175 countries that signed that agreement. Rosa Corey, she died, and she told us about this, that since 1992, I mean, the UN actually controls all land. So when we say that we own something, that we don't.
Well,
so that's a fraud.
But hold on a second. What has happened is that institutions like the United Nations, like the IMF, like NASDAQ, Ericsson, these institutions have owned things on paper. They put ink on paper that says, based on this document, this is mine. Based on this system that we've created, and all of this ink on paper over decades, over hundreds of years, we own this. And within this illusory system, that's really what it is. It's an illusion. It's a mass hallucination is what it is. A mass cognitive hallucination based on documentation and propaganda. These people don't own shit. All they own is the people that allow them to own their minds. And from there, they have an illusion of control, because they don't have control. What they have is influence.
Yeah.
The only person, or the
Leverage.
only, yeah, exactly. But that's not control, because they can't control whether or not lightning is going to come and strike their ass down. You know what I'm saying? That's not control. You know, they have influence, they have leverage.
Yeah. And I love what you said when you talked about money magic. That's really what it is. Because imagine that you can just create money out of thin air when someone takes a loan. Okay, and then you take this money that you can create as much as you want. You can just have fictive personas and fictive companies who can control you. Okay, you have a fictive company, you go to the bank, they give you credit, and that's a money, right? And then you go everywhere. You buy up Africa, and you buy also human labor. So they have this money magic is nothing. And then they make you, work for nothing. And this is an illusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's based on a mass hallucination.
Yeah.
You see, it really is. Like, and if
give
you
me some
think about it-
mushrooms.
yeah, well, the thing is, and that's why things like mushrooms and peyote and even things like cannabis have been illegal for so long, because these things dissolve the mass hallucination.
Yeah.
They give you a genuine look at reality. And that's actually been proven that's what mushrooms and things like psychedelic plants do, is that it's not so much that you're hallucinating and seeing something that isn't there. It's that you're actually seeing stuff that is there all the time, but your brain filters out because it's not essential for survival. So when you're doing it in a group setting, this is the reason why pretty much everybody sees the same hallucinations, because you're seeing what's there all the time, but is normally filtered out from the five senses by the brain. So that being said, monetary value is a hallucination. When Christopher Columbus came to the Americas, or came to, the West over here, he was conversing with the native tribes, and they were trying to give him cotton and tobacco and things of real value. You know what I'm saying?
Cacao. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cocoa.
exactly. Coca, exactly. And he was interested, Christopher Columbus was interested in the earrings that his wife was wearing, that the chief's wife was wearing, because they were gold. And the chief was like, you want that? Like,
affection value.
Yeah, like,
right.
Take it. Like, dude, that's women and children play with that stuff. Like, why do you want that?
Exactly.
Like this right here, this cotton, this, tobacco, this coca, this is a value. You know what I mean? Because you can do something with this that's like really valuable. You can alter your state of consciousness. You can create clothes. You can gain energy and be more productive. That's of real value.
Yeah, but remember that was in 1492 when Columbus came, but the Vikings came in the 18 and 900. Okay, so the Swedes had been there in the 800 and 900. So that was long before Columbus.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know that. I know that. And they also developed trade routes, and they traded with the Native Americans. They found Nordic coins and stuff in the Americas and stuff. The fact of the matter is, if people think that fake news is paradigm shattering, wait until they get a hold of fake history and fake science.
Exactly. It's and also we have this island, Saint Bartolomeo, and that was actually the first slave trade, and that was Swedish that had this slave trade, like a stock exchange for slaves, right, in the island Saint Bartolomeo. So the Swedes were first with that as well, selling slaves. So what they always have liked is all these registers, all these systems. So they had for all the insurance companies in Europe, they had like a union for all of them. So they could see actually who was owning what in Europe via all the insurance companies. And this is how they operate, right? They just want to to facilitate the trade, right? And then they are neutral. Swedes are neutral. You know that.
Yeah, it's like the middleman. Hey, I'm not doing anything. You guys are the ones. I just hooked you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And selling,
Well,
weapons to both sides, selling
yeah.
information, as we see now with the Ericsson report. They sell information, they say coordinates, and also it's a whistleblower now in the US, and he says that they sold actually really advanced technology to Al Qaeda. So not only ISIS, Al Qaeda as well. Both sides, always. Also Antifa, Planned Parenthood. That's Swedish inventions as well. So
Well,
everything good.
and we all know that
Yeah.
the Swedish, as far as Sweden as a country, is all about privacy. And rich people go there to keep their money there because they know that it won't be messed with, etc. So it seems like they have remained neutral by being a facilitator of all sorts of nefarious activities.
Yeah.
And that's why
And also,
nobody goes after him, though, because
No.
they don't want to screw up their middleman.
Yeah. And also it's kind of the sixth eye in five eyes, because if you can listen to everything, you control the whole infrastructure, telecom infrastructure. You can, surveil everything. And if you use that information for your own benefit, and also the Amazon, the Pentagon servers is actually in Sweden as well. So because we have this I don't know if you have seen Swedish Kings of Cyber War, but that was about Snowden, but also the Swedish law, FRA-lagen. So that's why they have all their service. So Facebook, Amazon, Pentagon, they all have their service, and that's all the data of the American people is actually here in Sweden, because we have another jurisdiction. And this is better for them because they
Because they
control
can
the
do
internet.
illegal shit. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
they're outside of the
Exactly.
Constitution. They can do whatever the hell they want. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's at this point, I'm fully 100% confident that this is the apocalypse. This is the
Yeah.
lifting of the veil. This is what is in the dark coming to light. And this is the way that it's been for a long time. It's not that the world is getting more screwed up. It's always been this way. It's now the truth of corruption, global and national corruption, is becoming so obvious, it's undeniable.
yeah. Yeah. So when I connect the dots, about the deep state, this companies working together, entrenched enemy, working together, and they meet, in the Bilderberg meeting, the World Economic Forum, all of this, and it's behind closed doors. And then you see, okay, where is the Swedish person in this? And you always find them because the Wallenbergs, they are everywhere,
Well, when you
So
got
this
billions
is-
and billions of dollars, trillions at this point, hey.
Yeah, and they can create as much as they want. They control the Bank of International Settlements, and that's kind of the central bank of the central banks. So, I mean, you can't control them because they can create as much as they want. And then you also have this, this shadow banking system, with tax havens and so on.
Well, and then
the crypto.
that's why I said what I said earlier. If they wanted to, they could solve all the world's problems quite easily with all of their wealth and influence. They could wipe the national debt of all of these countries and say, you know what, this whole debt thing is really, it's literally destroying the planet. And so these people think that everybody else is below them. How much you want to bet they're eugenicists? How much you want to bet that they believe that they are genetically superior because they're royalty? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, look, bro, let me tell you something. If you think you're genetically superior, then you don't understand genetics. Okay? And I understand that these people have been raised this way. You know, a lot of the time they're born into the family. In some cases, they're forced into doing terrible things, or at least being witness to terrible things like satanic ritual abuse and stuff like that. So I understand. And from that place of understanding, I have a certain level of empathy for the wounded child within them that's just going along with what their family's been doing for centuries. But at the same time, I also know that, like, look, that's no excuse. When you get to the pearly gates and God's like, hey, you know, WTF, man, look at what you did. Oh, my family told me to, is not going to be good enough.
No,
So
I
you're
just
gonna
did my
have,
job, won't cut it
yeah,
either.
exactly. I had to pay the mortgage. Give me a break. You know, so my thinking is, this is these people's opportunity. Because guess what? Eventually, like I said, these people that are trying to enslave the planet will end up becoming slaves of the people. They'll be in prison. And they're going to be sewing our freaking clothes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, and getting paid nothing for it. So now's their time to repent. It's like, look, bro, this is the apocalypse. Whether you like it or not, this is the apocalypse. I know that you thought that you were going to get another 1,000 years out of us, but no, sorry, not going to happen. So turn it around. The only way that we can ascend as a species is if these people grow too. Okay? Execution is not the solution. All right? The solution is helping these people work out their karma. Because in order to ascend as a whole, we have to recognize the oneness of everything. And that includes people like the Wallenberg family. That includes people like the Rothschild family, the Rockefeller family, the Soros family. And I'm not for just total immunity here. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that forgiveness is the only way forward. I'm not saying forget. I'm not saying wipe their crimes clean. I'm not saying let them get away with it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that execution is not the solution. Forgiveness,
I think,
and do you understand what I'm trying to say? And like
yeah,
giving them an
I
opportunity to work their karma out on the planet, that's how we ascend as a whole.
I think we have a problem there. You know what?
Okay.
I think, yeah, what Q said, that they won't be able to walk down the street. You know, I don't think that they want to be among us. I think they want maybe an island, and because
Well,
they
yeah,
will be so
I'm not
hated.
suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. I think Gitmo is a beautiful place for them to be. You know what I'm saying? It's an island.
Yeah.
It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's surrounded by ocean. It's militarized. You know, it's a prison. It's like, okay, that is their place. And guess what? You want a 15-minute city? I got a 15-minute city for you. You know, you know
I
what
got
I'm
a
saying?
5-minute city.
Yeah,
You know,
and you're gonna wear uniforms, and you're gonna own nothing and like it. And you know
You
what?
will
We're not
love
gonna
it.
make you eat bugs. We're not gonna make you eat bugs unless you want to.
Okay, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
that's where they deserve to go.
It was kind of funny when the White Hats had some fun with the Google map, when they say, you know, the new home of the deep state or something at Gitmo. You remember that? And actually,
Vaguely.
they did that, yeah, on Google Maps. They also did that in Stockholm with the Wallenberg. They added, it must be the White Hats. I mean, who can do that? And there's a yeah, deep state headquarters, and that was Stockholm, where they had their headquarters, Wallenberg. So the White Hats have had some fun with us, and we have, you know, that's my greatest fear, you know, to not to miss out these breadcrumbs that they are throwing at us. I mean, imagine if I'm that stupid that I miss it. So we have to search for it to understand, you know, what they are leaving for us to see.
Well, I think that the Q operation was largely a success because it was a psychological operation designed to affect the mass consciousness of not just America, but humanity, and draw light to things like the debt-based currency, the slave trade or child and human trafficking industry, and blackmail, and people like Jeffrey Epstein, and the controlling of governments and corporations and entertainers. So in that sense, it was largely successful. I think that part of the reason why the Q community or the Anons are suffering so much is because they're living in the past, you know, and they're trying to identify, future proves past, and they're still trying to put the puzzle together. And it's like, look, bro, the mission, the Q mission is over. The operation is over. It was accomplished. It was a success. Now we have to move forward with what we know. You know,
and we
stop
have it all
living in the past.
I think we know everything. Of course, it will be this program 7 hours or 9 hours per day for three times per day. So, and they will show us more about the history. But I think we actually have it all, and I think it has to do a lot with what Derek Johnson is talking about, the Law of War manual and the
Derek
military
Johnson?
law. Yeah, Derek Johnson, he's talking about this military law of war manual.
Okay.
Yeah, you know the new documentary with Nick Alviar, The Greatest Show on Earth. That's based.
Okay.
Yeah, that's based on his research about the Trump's EOs and everything.
Oh, okay.
And this military law. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
and that
we'll see. You know, I don't understand why the southern border is being invaded. I don't understand why fentanyl is coming into our country. I don't understand why, the cartels are infiltrating our nation. I don't understand why it is that these J6 prisoners are continuously being rounded up and locked up. I don't understand why it is that we're giving billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. So, like, I'm just saying, there's some things that for me don't line up with this notion of continuity of government and devolution, just because I'm looking at the terrain and going, well, hold on a second. Why is this stuff happening? You know what I mean? But at the same time, I also look at the military or the intense presence around Donald Trump and the lack of an intense presence around Joe Biden. I also look and see Trump always, he likes his little, under the table things that he says. And there's been quite a few things that he said. There's been some really interesting things Biden has said. Then there's also the way that, Biden, he clearly has body doubles, because some of these people are not walking the way Biden walks. You know what I mean? The whole thing just kind of screams, something's going on here. What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I think this has to do, the way I see it in Sweden is that we are under siege by the US military. So I don't think Sweden is a sovereign country now. And that is due to that the Swedish government was working together with the Wallenbergs and also with Telia. So what happened in 2017 was that the Justice Department, they actually charged Telia for draining 7 countries, how do you say, their statskassa, their money within the government. So they stole actually their money through a system, a setup. So they were draining the money from these countries. And when Telia did that, this is the phone company Telia, actually the Swedish government owned 40% of that company, and they also worked together with Ericsson. So I mean, you can't have a country that are actually facilitating all of this for all these companies' sake, and actually draining other countries, natural resources, money, and everything. So I think we are under siege.
It's what they've been doing. It's just back in the day, it was invasions and raping and pillaging and plundering. Now it's economic plunder.
Exactly. Yeah. But also, I mean, all this U.S. military, it's about, I think, 800 militaries now that are suing Ericsson. And I mean, if you have a country, a government working together with this company doing, I mean, being this corrupt, you know, if you look at top 3, we have 2 companies on the top 3 list, and that is Telia and Ericsson, you know, globally. So this is a small country, 10 million people, so they say. And yeah, so what we have here is also continuity of government. So what we have is you have a resident, Biden, and he is prolonging all the executive orders from Donald Trump, because they are not allowed to give new mandates or so on. They are just in there to continuity of everything in the country, and we have the same here. So what we see now is that I mean, now the military in Sweden will help the police. So, and they actually say that this is a war, and we have the U.S. Army coming in and out. So this is like their home port, like we are a colony to the U.S. now. So I think everything will be, and then to answer your not question but your remarks there. I mean, what is the most important within a continuity of government? Should you just stop all crimes? Is that the priority, or is it maybe to change the judicial system and build a foundation to get rid of all of it, instead of just doing it like point, even if they can? I mean, they can't just pinpoint things. They have to build everything new, the foundation. And
well,
in
that's
order
why I
to
talk about what I talk about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm just letting you know I understand exactly what you're saying.
Great. Yeah, but tell me what you see, how this how we got here and where we are going with this new foundation.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I really wasn't trying to interrupt. I wasn't trying to throw you off. I understand where you're coming from. The infrastructure itself is monopolized. All of it. Our monetary systems, our telecommunication systems, our energy systems, you know, our medical systems, our agriculture systems, like all of it is monopolized and controlled by a handful of corporations and a handful of families. Yeah. So what I'm proposing is a total decentralized infrastructure and grid system. And we would have to build that in parallel alongside the current economy that we're using. And we would use things like Tesla towers, you know, Tesla coils, infinite free, clean, wireless electricity to not only create a decentralized energy grid, but a decentralized communication grid. It would also give us the ability to do things like control the weather without the need for stratospheric aerosol injections or chemtrails, without the need to block out the sun like what Bill Gates wants to do, which is absolutely ludicrous. It's like something out of the Matrix. And it could also affect agriculture. We can also use Dr. Rife and his machine to in his understanding of frequency and vibration, how it can destroy disease and improve human health. Because the way you can destroy a cancer, I mean, the way you can destroy a wine glass with sound and frequency, you can destroy a cancer cell or a virus or a parasite with sound and frequency. So that would also decentralize our medicine. We also need to get into like a gold-backed currency. There's a lot of states here in the United States that have started issuing their own what they're calling gold backs. And so
Texas,
there
right?
is. What's that?
Texas.
The one I don't know. I know Wyoming started. There's a couple of states that started issuing their own gold backs, and it's like a 14-karat strip that's like paper thin of gold that has like, you know, like is like minted, you know. It's really kind of cool. Wow. And there's a bunch of them. But case in point is that we need to create that infrastructure And we aren't going to be able to do it here in the major cities, because if you have a Tesla coil in the major cities, you can end up creating an EMP that might shut down, and mess with the power grid. So it has to be something new. It has to be a new civilization based on a new form of energy, a new form of communication. And that's actually a good thing, because we need to get out of these cities. These mega cities, they're the reason why there's so much corruption, I think. Because you can easily corrupt a city that has millions upon millions of people stacked on top of one another, because the law enforcement is going to find it so much more difficult to enforce the law when they're outnumbered thousands to one.
Yeah. And you said something in that interview with frequency, vibration, and what did you say more?
Energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla. He said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So if you understand Nikola Tesla and what it is that he discovered with this Tesla Tower technology, if you understand Dr. Rife and what it is that he understands, or should I say understood, and what him and Tesla were working on regarding the machine that he created to improve health and kill disease. If you understand these two things, then three things will become apparent. Number one, the corruption here in the United States at its inception, how these things were, these tools, these inventions were suppressed so that people could own and control the economy. Number two, you're going to find out all the applicable uses of these technologies, all the applications for these things, and how it is that will transform our society and create independence for everybody. And then number three, because in order to understand how these technologies work, you need to understand energy, frequency, and vibration, the secrets of the universe will unfold before you. So we have a historical apocalypse. We have like a historical awakening based on the truth of what happened in the early 1900s. In the corruption at its inception. We have a technological evolution, or a technological apocalypse, a technological awakening, with these technologies finally being known by the public and used by the public. And then we have a spiritual evolution, a spiritual apocalypse, a spiritual awakening, once we understand the secrets of the universe, because we understand energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah. So what do you think about the future, and how do you see that this ties into BRICS and QFS, and how do you think about the quantum and
well, I've had a vision of the future on several occasions. I've had visions of the future for a while, and I trust my visions because many of them have come true. I have seen two possible timelines for humanity long term. One timeline is a timeline where we allow people like the Wallenbergs and the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Soroses of the world, the bloodlines, basically, to what I call the less than 1%ers, because that's what they are. They're less than 1% of the population. They are given we willingly as humanity hand them our sovereignty out of fear. And in this vision, what ends up happening is that humanity is turned into like a synthetic human through things like geoengineering and cloning, things like transhumanism and tampering with DNA. And we become almost like a Borg hive mind with like an AI system that these less than 1%ers worship. We are like a synthetic human species. The genuine biological human species becomes extinct. The pollution all around the planet that is perpetuated by the corporations of the less than 1%ers just keeps on rolling out. Ecosystems are destroyed, and the only thing left on this planet the only thing left living on the planet by the 7th generation is going to be metal and artificial intelligence. We're talking like a Skynet type scenario, almost like a Decepticon race making its way to the planet and terraforming it. That's kind of what we're witnessing now with this AI. That's one version. That's one vision. And that's if we allow these people to take over. Okay, yeah, we don't want that.
Klaus Schwab, you have to merge, half
Yeah.
human, half machine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, not gonna do that.
No.
This is what Klaus Schwab's gonna get. But the other vision is if we say no to these less than 1%ers and their vision and their transhumanism, their gene altering, their geoengineering, their bioengineering, their cloning, and all that stuff. We say, no, you are evil. This is not going to stand on Earth. And we as human beings, a biological human, end up ascending into these higher spiritual levels of, light and energy and frequency and vibration. And in the process, these technologies like what I'm talking about, Tesla Towers, Dr. Rife and his machine, things like the TR3B and the 0-point energy engine, these patents were released by Donald Trump in 2020. If you want, you can look them up under the name, the guy's name is Salvador Payas. The TR3B is like an anti-gravity or inertia propulsion craft. 0-point energy extracts energy from the quantum foam of space-time, gives us infinite energy, totally clean. Anyway, these technologies will be released to the public. And then, like I said before, in order to understand how they work, we have to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. So there will be a spiritual evolution, a technological evolution, where our humanity is never surpassed by our technology. It's like what Einstein said, when our technology surpasses our humanity, we'll have a generation of idiots. And that's what we have with a bunch of these people, looking at their phone all the time. You know what I'm saying? Is a generation of idiots. No, not quite. What I'm talking about is those people that are, every time something happens in their life, they have to go to social media and complain about it. What I'm talking about is people that spend all day playing video games or computer games. What I'm talking about is people that allow their televisions to do their thinking for them. That allow their echo chambers that they live in online in their mind, that is a reflection of the world. Even though it's just their world. So that being said, I think that other future that I'm talking about, where we declare independence from the less than 1%ers, where we ascend spiritually, we create a new heaven on earth. We become the tenders of Eden. We become the gardeners of Eden. The world and all the pollution will be cleaned up because we'll have new technologies that aren't polluting everything. We'll have a symbiotic relationship with the environment. And as human civilization grows, so too will the natural world. And that's a good thing. Nature will flourish because we have taken our rightful place at the center, not the top of the food chain, but at the center of the circle of life. As tenders of that circle, as mediums for the symbiotic relationship between man and nature. We will be gardeners and veterinarians, not parasites. And the only reason, and human beings aren't parasites, but the system that the less than 1%ers have created is parasitic. And if we contribute to that system, we are contributing to the destruction and the parasitism of our planet, of our home. And evolved creatures do not defecate and urinate where they eat.
No. Exactly. And if you look at, profit and competition, ultimately that is, dead. Death. If you and I have two companies and we are competing and one wins, the other dies. So we can't build a society on competition. It doesn't work that way. Everything that we need, food and water, everything is controlled by this entities, and they are just in it for the money, for the control, for the profit, and so on. And that's not sustainable. And I think we are saying no.
Yes. And especially when
more of us.
Yes, yes, especially when you look at how they're really trying to roll out this new world order based on this climate change narrative and COVID and all that stuff. They really done, forgive the language, they done fucked up. They thought that they were going to be able to roll this out and that there was going to just be acquiescence and total pacificity. And it's like, at this point, no, dude, you're just pissing everybody off. You're not scaring everyone. You're just pissing them off. And that's why I'm saying to these people, like, look, dude, you don't understand. If you continue down this road, it's not going to work out well for you. And I'm advocating to you that I'm trying to help you understand how much you're messing up. And like a parent coming to a child and saying, no, that's not going to work out well. Don't do that. That's what I'm trying to do with these people. I love all life on the planet. And in some ways that's unfortunate that it also encompasses these tyrants, but that's the love of God. And if I worship God, if I'm trying to be as much like Christ as I can and have that Christ-like love, if I'm trying as much as I can to be like God and have that God-like love, then I have to embody that. I have to be an example of that love. And that's why I say what I say to these people of like, look, bro, I would never do anything to harm those people, but I can't speak for the rest of the world. I can sense in the ether that you're not scaring everybody. You're just pissing them off. So you might as well want to stop. Might as well stop while you're ahead and just pull back and use your wealth and power for good.
We used to say in Sweden that we are in a military sting operation based public education project. This is based on a public education project. So, and I mean, Trump, when he spoke the other day about, this electric cars, and I mean, so you can buy that if you want to drive for 15 minutes and then be worried about where to, So, and people get so annoyed with him, but and said that, oh, he should have done this or that. Yeah, but how do we know that? I mean, it worked, right? First he pissed them off, and then they maybe realize, oh no, he was right. He was right again. And
well, the only people that get angry when you speak the truth are the people that are living and profiting from the lie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Exactly.
why I there's also the saying, a man is judged by the power of his enemies. And people like Donald Trump and even people like myself have powerful people that consider us their enemies. And that's the thing, is like, I don't choose the oppositional place of, oh, these people are my enemy. No, that's not how I think. That's not the way I operate.
No, you choose love. I can feel that. I mean, you are so much love. So, I mean, but they are so annoyed with you. I can see in the threads.
Well, because I'm not going to go away. And if the people don't like it, I don't care. Christ said, if the world hates you, know that it hated me first. And so, I'm all love. That doesn't mean that don't mistake my kindness for weakness.
No.
Okay. Don't believe that my silence is acceptance. I'm watching and I'm waiting. And sometimes it takes a little bit of watching and waiting to understand the best time to implement a strategy. Obviously, too much time is detrimental, and action is necessary. But the thing is that if you act too quickly based on impulse, you lose. If you act too slowly based on fear or caution, you lose. So what you have to do,
because sometimes we are,
so frustrated. So what we have to do is remove emotion from it. and go, okay, tactically, strategically, let's look at history. Let's look at where we're at now. Let's see how this is repeated. Let's look at history and see if and when certain figures came into the fray, what they did, what they said, how that affected things long term, how this cycle is repeating here, and then what these people did here. Let's insert those strategies here and let's see what happens. It's an experiment. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
let's see what happens.
And that's what Q gave us also, their handbook. So now we can see that very easily. Okay, they are doing it again. You know, they never invent new strategies. It's, you know, they're recycling the old ones all the time. And now it's really easy to see that. And when you see that, you are like, how come the other don't see that? But how do you think we should, what can unite us? I mean, how can we get more people on board to really be interested as well, you know, in what's happening? And
well, here's the thing, and you know, I'm curious what they're saying in the comments. I don't understand what I've said that could be so, you know, bad. You know,
did you say something bad? Okay,
yeah, I don't think so. I think what I'm saying is I'm not rah talking points. Screw those people. That's not how I operate. I'm looking at it I'm thinking centuries ahead. You said that these Wallenberg fuckers think centuries ahead, that the Rothschilds, they think centuries ahead, right? So in order to beat them, in order to stop them from doing what they're doing, guess what you're going to have to do? Think centuries ahead. And that's all I'm doing, is I'm looking at the situation and I'm saying, okay, well, what we're doing isn't working, you know, so let's try something else. So what I'm advocating for is using our energy to create something new that makes the old obsolete. You don't use your energy to fight the old. You're talking about fighting a system in which these individuals, like the Wallenbergs, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, etc., have full spectrum dominance. They control the media, and therefore they have psychological warfare campaigns they can and do perpetuate on the public. And from the control of the minds of the public through psychological warfare, they gain control of the land, the sea, the air and the airspace, the deep underground military bases, subterranean, the extraterrestrial satellites in space, the chemical, biological agents, technology, things like, you know, cell phones, okay, things like televisions, computers, radio towers, cell phone towers, etc. And then you also get control of the medical system, control of the currency system, etc. That's full spectrum dominance. And guess what? These fuckers have it. So fighting them within their own system, it's like trying to beat the banker in the Monopoly game. You're not going to be able to do it, bro. That's not quite how it works, because they can just print money. All right. So you're not going to be able to win in that system based on fighting them in their own system. They've structured the legal system. That's another aspect of full spectrum dominance. They've structured the legal system for their benefit and for our detriment, right?
Yeah, and the school system.
Yeah, oh yeah, and education, exactly. So now you're beginning to see how large this full spectrum dominance system is. That being said, what we have to do is create a system that is outside of that full spectrum dominance. What we have to do is non-violently not cooperate. We just basically, and if you really need something, just give them the finger. That's what we got to do. Just give them the finger, say, not going to do it. Don't care what you think. Don't care what you say. We're not going to participate. And when you look at history, those are the most successful campaigns. Those are the ones that create real long-term change. Violent revolution never creates long-term change. More violence begets more violence. Destruction begets more destruction. So you're not going to, I mean, and look at what happened to the French Revolution, for God's sake. It was so dang bloody that they didn't just stop with the aristocrats. They went after the leaders of the revolution after they found that they didn't have any more heads to put on the chopping block. You know, so you don't want to go that route. It's like, no. Like, bad idea. Trust me, this way is the right idea. If you look at Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, If you look at like what happened in Romania with the fall of communism in Romania, nonviolent, non-cooperation is the key, because the less than 1%ers, these globalists, they want people to behave violently, because then they have an excuse to crack down. Then we become the vandals and they become the law. But if we bear their blows without striking back, then they become the tyrants and we become the freedom fighters. Do you see?
Yeah.
And their evil is on display for everyone to see. Nonviolent, non-cooperation, the creation of a new infrastructure, a new system that is not centralized but is decentralized, that solves all of the problems. That right there is so important, because the modern system is one that creates problems and profits from problems. That's why they don't dabble in solutions. Okay. The idea of creating a new system that solves those problems, like long term, that takes away these people's power. It renders them obsolete. Think about it. The automobile industry did not seek to destroy the horse and buggy industry through propaganda or subversion or whatever. They just kept making better cars for cheaper prices. And then guess what? The horse and buggy industry went out of business. Unless you're an Amish person, you know,
Exactly.
in Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
Okay. But they make their own horses and buggies, right? I mean, they make their own buggies and they have their own horses. So point is, we want to make the old full spectrum dominant system obsolete. The only way to do that is to not cooperate with it, to build this infrastructure. That way, when the old one falls away, we have something that's better to replace it. We can't destroy the old system and expect everything to be okay. We're talking about a system that transports food, water, goods, services, etc. across thousands of miles. If you try to destroy that, then you're literally talking about starvation on a massive scale.
Exactly. So you have to replace it with something. So what I think is, it's about the public awareness. I mean, to as we do now, you know, to talk about what have gone wrong and what do we want for the future. So I think that there is no savior. I mean, they are already here, but I think that we will get a replacement. We will get the system, but we have to, let's say you get a spoon, but eat it yourself, right? So because you have to replace this system with something, and that's why they have to use some of, you know, the network, because why we do it. I mean, if you can change the people behind the gears, I mean, the technology in itself isn't, you know, evil or bad. It's how you use it. Yeah. So,
well, it's kind of like the government. The government is a firearm. So, you know, you can use a firearm to ensure people's liberty is protected, right?
Exactly.
And keep people safe. Or you can use a firearm to keep people hostage and enslave them, to do harm to them. The tool itself, the firearm, is neutral. It's about whose hands the firearm is in. And what we are seeing is that these less than 1%ers are the ones that have been holding on to the governments like firearms, using them to keep people hostage, using them to maintain their monopolies. And that's why I'm advocating for Tesla Tower technology, Dr. Reif's machine, a gold-backed currency, TR3Bs, zero-point energy, because then that takes the gun out of their hand. That makes them obsolete. They can't do anything anymore.
No.
You know?
Exactly. And so
and then they go to Gitmo. And then they go to Gitmo.
And who are they? I mean, I think this, when we realize how deep this goes. I mean, you have this. It's not only the people on the top, because then you have all these people. I just did my job. I just did my job, but that won't cut it, because I mean, you can't, you know, run their errands all the time. you have to
Oh yeah.
say
Well,
no.
the numbers runners are a part of the RICO case, that's for sure. But the thing is, how it works is that you get the lower level guys to testify in court against the big fish. Right. And then in exchange for a reduced sentence or, you know, something like that, you'll get these lower level people that are working with the higher level people to turn on them. And then from the from the bottom up, you just boom, you got them all. And then they all either end up in Gitmo or elsewhere. Like you said, it might not be safe for some of these people to walk down the street eventually, so they might want to stay in Gitmo. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I think they would, but also I don't think that they will. I mean, they will go to jail, right? And some of them will be executed, I think. But what maybe the deal is that, okay, we don't tell everything that you have done so that your, you know, coming generations can live together with us, right? Because
Right.
if they tell everything, they will be hated. Look at the Germans. I mean, they are still hated. And I mean, they wasn't even, you know, born yet.
Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah, but they have
It's
to,
so
you
we
know,
have to think 7 generations ahead.
yeah,
We have to think centuries ahead. Okay, how is what we're going to do now going to affect 7 generations from now?
exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
that's the
how
Native
can they
American
live it?
way.
Yeah, and how can they live in peace with us, knowing that their, you know, ancestors did this? You know, they were part of the 1%. But I think that when everything comes out, I truly hope that we will see the true enemy, that we won't blame each other. And I think that some, yeah, you know, some details they have to keep for themselves because it doesn't gain us. And yeah,
It
I mean,
reminds
their
me of that
children has done.
scene. Have you seen that movie, The Hunger Games?
No.
No. Okay. Well,
All of my audience have, but I found this so
there's
my
a
kids have.
scene. There's a scene in the second one when the main character Katniss is worried that these people that she had allied herself with while she was in the Hunger Games, while she was in the arena, that one of them was gonna try to kill her. And so she had her bow, you know, pointed at the guy, and the guy had his hands up and he says, Katniss, remember who the real enemy is. Right. And I think that's what people need to realize is that we all have a common enemy and it's not each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really not. There's people that think we are the enemy. And they are trying to kill us. They are trying to do a depopulation agenda. Hello, you know, look at the way they've rolled out these vaccines, and they're not even vaccines. They're mRNA shots. They're bioengineered mRNA. So, unfortunately, I have to go. If you want, we can do this again sometime. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have another interview I have to do in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I had one question. Maybe you can
Sure.
end with, I mean, all these patents that will be released. What do you think about in the future, like diseases and I mean, food and the air and the sea, and how do you see us in frequency and balance with nature and yeah, how do you see all
Well,
these patterns roll out?
the moment that we stop using the systems that we're using, we stop polluting the planet. So that's number one. The moment that the pollution stops, then we can begin cleaning up the mess of the pollution. You can use things like bioremediating fungi, bioremediating mushrooms that eat things like diesel fuel or nuclear radiation or things like vinyl chloride, like we're seeing in East Palestine, Ohio. You can use bioremediating fungi, bioremediating plants to clean up the ecosystem. You can use Tesla towers to emit frequencies that cause these organisms to grow rapidly and the process to unfold more quickly so that we can revamp these ecosystems very, very shortly, in very short order. That being said, it can also be used for agriculture as well. So we can create massive amounts of vegetation and growth and food and stuff like that without the need for engineering, without the need for bioengineering, without the need for GMOs, without the need for pesticides and chemicals and all that stuff. All that crap it will be phased out, because you can use frequencies to not just keep bugs away, but also to increase the growth of plants. You can use frequency and vibration to kill disease. And that's actually relatively simple. Like I said, if you can use sound and frequency to destroy a wine glass, well, you can also use sound and frequency to destroy a cancer cell. Cancer cells are much smaller. And how you do it is, the reason why the wine glass shatters at a certain frequency is because the frequency of sound is matching the frequency that the wine glass is resonating at. Everything is resonating at a certain frequency. That's why when people put water in a wine glass and then they turn it, it makes a different sound. They put their finger on it, it makes a sound, right? It's because everything is resonating at a certain frequency. So if you do that with a wine glass, you can figure out the frequency of a cancer cell and destroy the cancer cell without causing any damage to healthy human tissue, because healthy human tissue does not vibrate at the same frequency as cancer cells. So that's one area of that, the infrastructure that can and will change. And it will do so quite quickly once the minds change. So the real crux of this whole issue is changing the minds of the people, changing people's minds, getting them out of the cultural paradigm, getting their minds and their piece, their little piece, off of the Monopoly board, getting their minds out of that state of thinking. And once that happens and they see that there is a better way that has been kept from us, that there are 5,000 to 6,000 patents that have been classified that we, the taxpayers, paid for, that could transform and will transform everything for the better, that can solve all these problems. Things like, machines that can replicate your own stem cells so that you don't need to have, knee reconstruction surgery or whatever. You don't need to have a new hip put in or whatever. You can actually, there's technology that's able to reverse the oxidation of our cells and therefore reverse the aging process. That coupled with stem cell therapy, TR3Bs, anti-gravity inertia propulsion technology. All of these things are the future. We're talking about things like mining asteroid fields as opposed to mining things here on Earth. We're talking about reversing the aging process, deep exploration into outer space, getting rid of AI in the sense that it's not like a Skynet thing. It's not like a Decepticon thing. It's more like a Data from Star Trek thing. But even then, we are talking about humanity learning to use the full capacity of the human brain. We are talking about ascending to where we don't need AI, to where we're communicating telepathically. I know that may sound crazy, to where we're doing things like astral projection to other dimensions. And this is a common thing. It's commonplace. A whole other level. That's what it looks like. It looks like a Garden of Eden. It looks like Star Trek or some sci-fi novel of sorts, but in a really cool way, kind of like a blend between Star Trek and Star Wars. Without the Empire.
I'm so happy with this interview because I wanted you to just rant about how you see the future. And I think next time we can just pick up from here and just, develop all these thoughts and and also interact more. Let's do it. I'm so grateful that you came onto my show, and I think the audience is really happy with you. They are really polite and nice, and they have a lot of questions. So maybe for next time we can pick up some questions and you can just
let's do it. Write them down, and I'll we'll do it next, and we can do something in short order as well. I'm sorry I have to leave.
But we take it in next week or in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We can just pick it up where we were and just continue.
Absolutely.
Like we didn't stop.
Let's do it. You just keep in contact with me, okay?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, and if your followers want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at America Shaman. That's America Shaman, at America Shaman on Twitter. And you can also go to my website, ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. That's ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com has basically hours and hours and hours of free content that you can check out. I would highly recommend that you do so. Free podcasts, free interviews that I've done, free courses. There's also my book that's for sale on there. There's also some merchandise that's just absolutely hilarious. So
I will
give it a
put
shot.
everything in the description.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you and
so
namaste.
much. Namaste. We're honored. Thank you so much.